Hello and welcome to Talking Tullahoma, a weekly podcast recapping the week's news, talking to the news makers, and looking ahead to upcoming events. I'm Kelly Lapchinsky, and today I'll be talking to bluegrass artist Becky Buller. After the interview, stay tuned to hear about events that are on tap in the weeks ahead. But first, here's a look back at the week ending Friday, August 8th. Now, first up, this was a relatively quiet week in Tullahoma, but it wasn't a quiet week in the county or the surrounding area. To start with, we found out this week that 2 county residents had been arrested after they left their dog out to die in the late July heat. The Coffee County Sheriff's Department was called for a welfare check on a dog that appeared not to be doing well. While the responding officer found the dog too late, it had been left outside without shade, food, or water. Owners Bill and Felicia Teal were charged with aggravated cruelty to animals, and Bill Teal is being held on a $500,000 bond. Now, here's something you should know. The number of dogs that die of heat stroke every summer is increasing. The numbers go up year over year as the temperatures get hotter and hotter. It seems every summer we set a new heat record, which is bad news for dogs who start off with a higher body temperature than humans. And dogs don't sweat, they pant, which is not an effective way to cool down when the humidity is high. Any temperature over 90 degrees can be hazardous, but it doesn't have to be sweltering to be dangerous. A good rule of thumb for pet safety is the number 150. If you can add together the air temperature and the humidity level, and the sum is 150 or higher, your dog could be in danger. On Tuesday, Tullahoma High School shared an opportunity for students who have an interest in flying. Flight training scholarships are now available for THS students in grades 10 through 12, that is, as long as they plan to pursue a career in aviation. Students will learn from certified flight instructors in both simulators and real aircraft, and the scholarship could fund training up to the level of private pilot, depending on the student's progress and the available funds. Now, this is a CTE scholarship. Qualifying students must commit up to 8 hours a week toward their license requirements. Now, if you know a student who would make a good fit, find a link to the application on the Tullahoma City Schools Facebook page. Applications are due no later than Friday, the 15th. By Wednesday, the nonprofit primary care clinic Partners for Healing had announced a new executive director. By this time next week, the clinic will have said goodbye to outgoing director Emily Sisk and handed the reins to new director Ashley Townsend. Townsend brings with her a working knowledge of nonprofit grant management, which another former director, now sitting board member Lynn Brumfield, says will be an asset to the organization. Partners for Healing operates 2 clinics for the uninsured, one in Tullahoma and one in Manchester. You can find out more on their website, partnersforhealing.org. Now, over the last week, the story that kept on giving concerned a distillery in Shelbyville. It started when Farm Credit Mid-America filed a federal lawsuit claiming that Nearest Green Distillery had defaulted on $100 million in loans. The default was allegedly triggered after management sold off collateral. They sold it to pay past due bills to other creditors. The suit also claims the value of the company's inventory had been overstated and that proceeds from the loan had been used to purchase a $2 million home on Martha's Vineyard. Company founders Fawn and Keith Weaver say those allegations are demonstrably false. In its formal response, the company blames a former CFO for the overreporting of inventory. But when it comes to the property on Martha's Vineyard, well, things get a bit muddier. You see, in Massachusetts, that property has been the source of some dispute for the last couple of years. So much so that the town where it is located recently changed its bylaws to limit the number of large events that can be held at a residential property in a given year. And there's the rub. It seems the Uncle Nearest house on Martha's Vineyard has hosted events with unprecedented frequency for the area, and those events looked suspiciously like commercial activity. clam bakes, brunches, and cocktail parties where Uncle Nearest was presumably served. Now, this puts the Weavers between a rock and a hard place. Either the property is a company asset that they use to lobby with buyers on behalf of the brand, or it is a private residence where they happen to host a large number of very well-attended events. If it is a company event venue, the city of Edgartown will have something to say about it. And if it's a private residence, the lawyers will. In the meantime, Farm Credit wants to put a receivership in place. Lawyers for Nearest Green say that such a drastic remedy is both unwarranted and inappropriate. Now, on the flip side, there is another story that's not giving us much at all. In June, Vanderbilt University Medical Center filed an official warn notice with the state, saying that more than 600 healthcare workers would lose their jobs in Nashville and at various other non-emergency locations. Now, if you've seen a doctor lately, you've likely noticed that some of those job losses have trickled down to our area. In June, CEO Jeff Balzer said the staff cuts were made necessary due to budget cuts, and those budget cuts are the result of federal cuts to scientific funding. VUMC is one of the largest NIH research centers in the United States, and while that's true, most of the workers affected were in administrative and support positions. Now, if there are more cuts to come, it could be bad news for the Tullahoma economy, which benefits from a strong medical sector. Deep cuts to Medicaid and to Medicare are expected to prompt benefit losses, especially for the elderly and the disabled. And these types of changes put rural hospitals at risk. Now, whether we like it or not, Vanderbilt Tullahoma Heart Hospital is a rural hospital, and so is nearly every other similar facility in a 50-mile radius. Now, if you've got problems with your health care and with your whiskey, you might be getting the blues. But hey, it's the rural South. What better medicine for the blues than a little bluegrass music? Well, there's not much better if you ask 10-time IBMA award winner Becky Buller. Since 2015, the International Bluegrass Music Association has recognized Becky as the best new artist, as top songwriter, fiddle player, and female vocalist. She's won Song of the Year, and she's been nominated again this year for her songwriting, for her liner note writing, and as the IBMA Mentor of the Year. And if you didn't already know this, she lives right here in Coffee County. Now, Becky was one of the first people I interviewed when I came to work for Light Tube Television, and it's that interview from pre-pandemic 2020 that I have chosen to revisit this week, ahead of the IBMA award ceremony next month. You were originally born, if I've got this right, it was Minnesota?
Minnesota. Oh, yeah.
The accent, yeah. And you actually picked the fiddle, if I understand, because your parents played. Your dad was mandolin, your mom was guitar.
Oh, you've done your homework.
Yeah, you wanted to do the bluegrass thing, and you can't just sing in a bluegrass band, right?
That is so true. Yeah, most of the time, it's not always this way, but most of the time, everybody in a bluegrass band plays something. And my parents were part of a band called Prairie Grass. The whole time I was growing up, it was my mom on guitar, my dad on mandolin, and Gordy and Roxy Schultz on banjo and bass, respectively. And I really wanted to sing in the band. And they told all of us kids, if you want to play in the band, you're welcome to, but you'll have to practice, and you'll have to play something. And so I looked at the lineup of the band, and at that point I wasn't aware of the dobro or resophonic guitar. And I was like, okay, you don't have a fiddle, I'll play fiddle. And they're like, okay. And it took about a year to convince them I was serious about it. And then they got me Suzuki violin lessons in Mankato, Minnesota, and I was part of the Mankato area youth symphony up there. But the entire time I was learning violin, I really wanted to do fiddle. And I feel so lucky now that I learned both disciplines at the same time. I was learning the bluegrass stuff with my family band, and then from records and on my own. And then my violin teacher knew that I really wanted to do that's where my heart was. And so she would teach me some fiddle tunes along the way. She was an amazing teacher, Patty Trias at the Mankato Suzuki School of Music. Anyway, but I think it's really helped me as I've became an adult and a professional musician, and I've done a lot of teaching. I just finished up teaching at a camp in Alabama. I'm able to draw from both disciplines. I've got all the ear training and improv skills from bluegrass music, but then I have that wonderful classical technique that probably doesn't show as much as it ought to. I do have some bad habits I've developed, along the way too. But when I graduated from high school, I came down to Tennessee to go to school, East Tennessee State University, and be part of their bluegrass and country music program. So that's what moved me down to Tennessee. And then after graduating there, I took a job with a band here in Middle Tennessee and have been here ever since.
Now, see, I think it's interesting you used a word and you used it twice, and it's an important word because a lot of people don't realize the violin and the fiddle are the same instrument.
Exactly.
It's a matter of how you play
and there's all sorts of jokes about that. People ask me what the difference is between them, and usually I'll say attitude. They'll just kind of look at me and blink, But really, yeah, it's just two different styles. My fiddle is set up like a classical player, maybe slightly lower action, which is, the how far the strings are off the neck. But other than that, it's pretty much a classical setup. A lot of times, old-timey fiddlers will have a flatter arch to their bridge because they want to hit those double stops. And I have the arch to it here, like a classical player, because I want to play, cleaner single notes as well as the double stops. But yeah, it's just how you play it. They're just two different styles of music, and to me, there's only two kinds of music: good, music that speaks to me and music that doesn't.
Right.
So,
Now
I love to listen to lots of stuff.
Oh, you mentioned you came down to Tennessee to go to the college and get into the bluegrass program. The thing, though, if I understand it correctly, that kept you in Tennessee is now your husband.
Yes, I married a Coffee County boy. My husband, Jeff Haley, has lived in Manchester his entire life. We're probably related to most of the town. And he works out at Arnold's Air Force Base.
And he was running a radio show, I think, at one point,
yes,
right?
He was. At WMSR, we had the Bluegrass Crossroads show with us and a couple other friends, and it was really fun. He brought me in there when we were dating, and I was like, oh, this is fun. And then I took it over and really tried to build it up and have guest artists in there. And, we became a charting show, so that we would help people out with the radio airplay charts and things. I really enjoyed it. I had to give that up when our daughter started school because it was just too much.
And your daughter, Romy, now is 6 years old?
She is 6. She's about to be 7, going on 30 or something. It's just incredible to watch her grow. And I still every so often will look at her and say, wow, you're talking to me in complete sentences that mostly make sense.
And tell us how she got her name.
Well, it was the strangest name that Jeff could come up with. At the time, we were trying to pick out baby names, and he kept coming up with things that were popular circa 1980, like Stephanie and Jennifer. And I'm like, I want something different, but not too different. It'll kind of a little weird, but not too weird. And that was the weirdest name he could come up with. That's actually she's actually named after the wife of a good friend of ours from Huntsville, Alabama, Rick Rorex. Wonderful mandolin player. His wife is named Romy. It's spelled exactly like Romy. Jeff remembered the pronunciation wrong, but I like it, Romy.
See, I had heard the tale that she was named after Romy and Michelle, the movie.
Yes, there's a little bit of that. I had to watch the movie Romeo and Michelle's High School Reunion just to make sure that I really did like that name. And I found out after we named her that it was a diminutive of Rosemary, which I don't know, maybe I would have gone that route, and then called her Romy for short. But yep, she's Romy Elizabeth.
Okay, good deal. Now, we mentioned also the radio show. Now, that takes us in two directions. First of all, you said you took over the show. I know one of your guests was actually someone that sort of bridged the gap between you being the singer-songwriter, or more the songwriter, and not having the confidence maybe to go out and start your own band, to really getting there and getting out there on your own. And I think you were mentioning before we went to air that you had interviewed her, and she was a good interview guest. Tell us a little bit about
Rhonda Vincent. Yes, Rhonda is she's a hero and a mentor to me. She's the queen of bluegrass music, and she works so hard at everything she does. I just found out the other day she does all her own accounting because that's what her degree is in. I was like, wow. I have a whole nother level of respect for you. But she recorded one of my songs way back when in the early 2000s, one of my first cuts. And it's, if I have a greatest hit at all, it's Fishers of Men, and it's because Rhonda Vincent recorded it twice, actually. And a lot of churches have picked that up to use whenever that verse comes up in, the Sunday lesson. And I'm just so grateful to her for all her encouragement. She was on my last record. She sang a duet with me called Calamity Jane, and the song did really well. It was nominated for some awards, but I've just really appreciated her as an artist. I saw her band when I was a kid, so I've followed her for a long time, but also as a mentor to me, because now I'm my own artist and I have questions, and she is one of my go-to people when I'm like, oh, what should I do? And then she'll say, well, what would Dolly Parton do? And I'd say, yep, I need to get that t-shirt.
Well, now sort of lead us there. Songwriting is really where you got, obviously you were working with your parents as a kid to do the Prairie Grass Band, but you sort of got into the business and really made it your own songwriting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've played for different groups. Valerie Smith and Liberty Pike was the group that brought me to Middle Tennessee. Played for Darren and Brooke Aldridge for a while, but all along I've been writing songs. As long as I can remember, I've been writing songs, and I really feel like it's my therapy and my way of dealing with the world and getting away from the world sometimes. I love doing it. I still write a lot on my own, but I do a lot more co-writing now in the last many years. Because life is so busy, especially now that on top of everything else, I'm touring as my own artist and with my own band, and that brings another level of responsibility that takes me away from the songwriting. But I'm trying really hard to make that kind of my day job through the week, where I either write on my own or I get with somebody maybe for a few hours in the morning and write either in person or online over Skype or FaceTime or text message. I have one co-writer. He and I we were texting back and forth, and I loved it because I was getting my house clean and my laundry done while I'm writing a song with Eli. It was great, So I'm just, sometimes over email, I'm just figuring out different ways. I love the technology we've got now. It's made the world so much smaller and easier to connect with folks, to collaborate, and all the fans on social media. I've had a lot of fun with that too.
Good.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned songwriting going into the break, and I know that you did say earlier in the program that it's just harder as you get to be more and more in demand to find that time. But songwriting is almost church for you in a way, is it not?
It is part of, yes, it's part of my religious experience, and I do write a lot of gospel songs, but I write about all sorts of things. I mean, I will follow where the muse leads. One of my favorite songs that I've written wound up being the title cut of my first album with Dark Shadow Recording. The title of that album is Tween Earth and Sky, and it comes from a song called Didn't Die, and it's a ghost telling, like, she's going to get revenge for being murdered. So it's it's pretty dark, but I love, and in fact, my producer said, what is your dad going to say when he hears this song? And I'm like, I don't care. I really want to record this song and just love the story, So I love telling stories.
Do you still write them for other people at all, or is it just now, as many, when I crank them out, they got to be for me?
No, I do. I have ones that I keep for myself. Like, I just know going into it, this is one I want to sing myself. I have other songs where, maybe I started writing it for somebody else. I'm like, I really want to keep this one for me. And it's fun now. I'm getting to record a lot more than I used to, just like in the last 5 years, I'm getting to record more than I ever did before. I have a couple albums from 2000 and 2003, I think. I have a couple albums from back then, but I still write with other artists in mind, and I keep a running list of song ideas on my phone, and I'll put a little note behind, like, write with so-and-so or write for so-and-so. Like, certain ideas make me think of a certain artist, and so I'll put that on my list. so that when I circle back around to it, I'm like, oh yeah.
And the list
yeah,
could be
it's
the back of a styrofoam cup.
I've done that, yes. You're following my social media. Thank you very much.
Yes, if the
And
paper's
I
not
finally
available, it's in the
finished.
back of the van.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I finally finished that song too, and I'm keeping that one for myself.
Well, good deal.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hear one of these songs that you would like to share with us.
Sure.
Played on Leopold.
I was just going to do an old fiddle tune. This is a Bill Monroe number. Kenny Baker recorded it on Kenny Baker Plays Bill Monroe, which is an album that every bluegrass fiddler needs to know. This is called Road to Columbus, and thank you again for having me.
Your violin has been around for a little while and has a name.
Yes, so this is Leopold, and I named him after Hugh Jackman's character in the movie Kate and Leopold, which had come out around the time that I got this fiddle.
Is there any particular connection that the violin reminds you of Hugh Jackman in some way?
No, well, I mean, they're both luscious and lovely.
There you go.
Yes. but we call the fiddle the old man because he's about 200 years old. And I got him at Universal Chevrolet in Cleveland, Georgia.
A car dealership.
A car dealership, yes.
Okay, how does that work?
Exactly, I know. So they had a festival and concert series on the back lot at the car dealership, and the band I was with, they come down to play, and Mitch Simpson, who owned the dealership, is a fantastic mandolin player, and he dealt in instruments upstairs. So one of my fiddle heroes, Aubrey Haney, had brought this fiddle in with a bunch of other stuff to get a Tahoe for his wife. And he'd, traded instruments and kicked in cash and whatever. And I came in the next day, I played this fiddle for 10 minutes, and I said, I have to have this. I just love this. And so Mitch did a deal with me actually to get both of these instruments. This guitar, it's about a 1931 Gibson LO. So I got the guitar and the fiddle. I traded for the fiddle that I had at the time, and had to kick in $500 extra for it.
Yeah, not too bad, though.
Yeah, these go with me just about everywhere.
At the time of that interview, 2 members of the Becky Buller Band were local to Coffee County. Bass player Daniel the Hulk Harden was still holding down a full-time job at Jack Daniels as recently as 2023. He may still be there. As for Becky, she lives in Manchester, where her main gig is raising her daughter, Romy. Now, Romy turned 7 shortly after that interview. She is now 12. The 2025 IBMA Awards will be handed out in Chattanooga on September 18th in a ceremony that will be co-hosted by Steve Martin and Allison Brown. But even before that event, Becky and the band will celebrate the release of their new album, Songs That Sing Me. The release party is set for Nashville's Station Inn on Friday, September 5th. The album is available for pre-sale wherever you stream digital music. Now, from getting your fiddle at a car dealership, we move on to getting your literature at a performing arts center. In September, South Jackson will present the play Anne of Green Gables, and this week, reviewer Rosie Graham suggests rereading the book ahead of the show.
I don't know how many of you have read the book Anne of Green Gables, but surely in your past that has come about for you because it was one of the classics of all time, of young girl. And in fact, it's been on television. Anne with an E is on television, and it was a good series that was on there. Well, it's going to come to life again at South Jackson. It's going to be the play of the month, so to speak, in September, and has a delightful cast, and it's a delightful story of young Anne Shirley, who gets adopted by a spinster and her brother who are running a farm, and they expected to get a boy, and they get Anne, and she is a pistol, and she has how she comes into their lives and takes on. And they live in something called Avonlea, but anyway, and they're in Canada. So it's a delightful story, and it would be a terrific play. And I think if you read it first, or if you haven't read it already, read it, and then come back and see how it plays out. Because I've seen some of this cast, and they are delightful. They are delightful people. And it is Anne of Green Gables. And I think we all ought to read it again.
You know, I've never read it the first time. I heard about it my entire life. I've never actually read the book.
And she's, like I said, she brings to life the old age of when there's a one-room schoolhouse, and how she meets the people there as she comes in to be this kind of dynamic spitfire that says, okay, you wanted a boy, but here I am, you got me, so what do you want me to do? You want me to help on the farm? You know, I will be who I am. She's uniquely herself, and I think that's the key for all young girls to read, and young boys too. Because there's some boys in this too, Gilbert and, you know, the people that she meets. She's a competitor with a young boy in the class. It's a cute story. It's a story, like I said, every school-age child should read, and male or female, and up through probably middle school would truly enjoy this story. And the rest of us will enjoy watching it blossom on stage.
Now, I don't want to catch you on the spot. Do you know any of the actors' names that are in this cast?
I do. Several of them. A little girl named Piper Reed, who is not from here, but came in. She's playing Anne, Shirley. A young man named Gavin Good, who you may have seen on stage before. He is playing the Count Gilbert in the play. Frank Wonder, who has been in a number of things, is playing Matthew Cuthbert, and Michelle Rowe is playing his sister, Marilla, and they are that couple. So yes, I know a number of them, and you will know a number of people.
I know two of the four you've named by name. Now I might recognize.
There are about 20 in the cast.
Okay,
a lot of them young people. Rob Wanamaker is directing it.
He directed us in Steel Magnolias, so
which is one reason I'm involved with this. And he goes to great lengths to make sure they're costumed well, and they look the part, and that they get into character. He's done a great job with that. He is being assisted by Shay Starrett, who you may have seen in Hunchback. She was the lead in Hunchback, and she is darling, and she does well. I've watched some of the rehearsals, and they're coming right along. So
I believe she was proposed to on stage during that
and
show
is
as well.
married next summer, I think.
Lovely. Okay.
So she's darling. But you will know a lot of. Some of them have been on before. But again, it's interesting, the mix, because there's some new people, and there's some new young people that are getting involved with this. And I applaud Rob and the cast for bringing in, and Rob, all of them, for bringing in new life and new faces.
Absolutely. And it is the only non-musical on the entire season this year.
And it's the only,
So.
and I don't call it a children's play either. It's not by Pact, and it's not by, Teach. It's really part of the community's playhouse season. He got that on there. Only runs one weekend. So
Right.
it's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But it is a play for the family. It's a good family show. And I think everybody will enjoy. But I'd say read the book first.
Absolutely.
She wrote a series of them. There's 6 books in the series.
I had no idea.
Anne of
Really?
Green Gables is the first
Wow.
one. Yeah. Then she goes on to talk about how Anne grows up and how she gets married and how she has her own kids. And, so if you like the first one, but the character of Anne is, it's the key to the whole thing. Her character runs the whole thing.
Okay. So how much time do we have to read the book? Tell us the play dates again.
Play dates are September 11th through the 14th, so you've got a month, or
Okay.
a little more than a month, and it will be at South Jackson at that time. So come.
I'll tell you more about the play as it gets closer to opening, but you should be able to get your tickets online soon at southjackson.org. And now, here's a look at what's happening. A scale replica of the Vietnam Memorial is making its way to Winchester City Park this month. The traveling memorial will open for viewing at 6 p.m. on Thursday the 14th, and the wall will remain open 24 hours a day through Monday the 18th. This will be the 10-year anniversary of the wall being in Winchester, and it's the only time it will be in Tennessee this year. Admission is free. The Coffee County Fair book dropped this week with entry information for all of this year's contests. The 168th annual Coffee County Fair takes place on either side of Labor Day weekend, starting August 29th and wrapping up on September 6th. I'll tell you more about the gate times and prices when it gets a little closer, but if you'd like to have something of yours entered into a fair contest, the deadline to pre-register is Friday the 15th. You can get the fair book inside your copy of Tullahoma News or at the news office on Lakeway Place. Faith Lutheran Church on Bragg Circle is getting ready for a 2-day rummage sale on the weekend of the 15th. The sale will start at 7 a.m. both days, but it's open until 3 on Friday and will close an hour earlier on Saturday. All the money raised will go toward missions. The Tennessee Trails Association will meet at D.W. Wilson Community Center on August 18th to view and discuss the documentary Safe and Found. The film describes the work of a search and rescue team in remote areas of western North Carolina. The showing begins at 6:30. The Tullahoma High School football team is gearing up for its first game of the season on Saturday. Yes, Saturday, August 23rd. But TUA will help the team celebrate the start of the season with its annual tailgate party at Fraser McEwen Park on Friday, the 22nd. Meet us near the baseball pavilion at 3:30 for pizzas and drinks from our partners at First Vision Bank, and for free Wildcat t-shirts for the first 250 elementary or middle school students who arrive. Then on Saturday, Scott Chasteen and Ken Keller are back with all the play-by-play action. You can watch the game live on LightTube Channel 23 or listen to it on 93.9 The Duck. Fans of the Beatles won't want to miss the one-night-only appearance of the Wanna Beatles at South Jackson later this month. The world's only Grammy-nominated Beatles tribute band recreates the biggest hits of the Fab Four and their contemporaries, while also entertaining audiences with their onstage antics. Limited tickets will be available at the door for the 7 o'clock show on Saturday the 23rd. So if you want to see the show, get back online because you'll find them starting at $20 at southjackson.org. And that's what's happening. Thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Talking Tullahoma. If you've got a story or an event that you'd like to share on the podcast, call and leave me a message at 571-7186 or email news@lighttube.net. I'll be back soon with more of what makes Tullahoma tick. Until then, you can listen to Talking Tullahoma on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. New episodes drop on Thursdays. Please like and share. For the video version, follow us on YouTube. Just search for TUA LightTube. I'm Kelly Lepchinsky. Catch you next week.